My name is Keith, and welcome back to my machine learning series. In this one, we're going to shift gears a little bit towards NLP, or natural language processing. This is the machine learning skill set that has to do with looking at text, trying to understand human spoken language, human speech, and turn it into something that can be interpreted or processed by the computer. Common things that use machine learning are going to be things like information extraction, machine translation, or something like sentiment analysis, finding out whether something is true or false or positive or negative based on text. Seeing if a review is spam or not, actually checking spam in general. Most email systems that use some form of spam check is probably going to use some form of NLP. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with some very basic stuff. And the first thing we're going to touch on is tokenization. Now, what tokenization is you can think of it as breaking a sentence or a paragraph or really any string of human speech down into its constituent pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with making our own tokenizer. There's plenty of libraries that tokenize for us and do all kinds of stop word removal and things like that. But we're just going to start with our own hand roll solution for this. All right, so let's actually jump into it. First thing we're going to need is regular expressions. So the reason we're going to use regular expressions is we're going to use that to split our string into a list of its constituent pieces using the regular expression.split function. But let's go ahead and make ourselves a function. We're going to call this tokenize, and we'll pass in our text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return re.split. And then we're going to put in our regular expression, which will be for every word, continuing, and text. And then what we're going to do from here is let's define a test string. So we're just going to call this test string. And I'm going to say everyone loves a sweet apple. I'm going with a little bit more complicated of a string here because we want to have something that's a little bit more realistic, a little bit more complicated than just a few words. We can also add crazy punctuation and stuff that could trip it up, but in this case, it's going to be pretty simple to tokenize this stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to define tokenized, and we're going to define this as tokenize test string. And it's that simple. So now what we're going to do, we're going to save that off and we're going to run it. And look at our variables. And as you can see here in our variables, we have all that we think we need. You'll see here that the sweet is repeated because it sees this as a word break. And this kind of gives us a little bit of leverage using regular expressions already pre-built functionality here. But what's really interesting is we don't really want to have repeat tokens. One of the reasons that we want to tokenize things is to remove things that are repeated a whole bunch or aren't terribly important. So this is a great start, but one of the things we want to do is unique this. Now there's a bunch of ways we could do this. We could take the list that's come out of this and we could iterate on it and create a hash map and then see if something exists in the hash map. That's all very valid ways of doing it, but it's kind of reinventing the wheel for no reason. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to make this a set. And for those who don't know exactly what a set is in essence a list that is unique. There's a few other properties about it that are different than a standard list, but in this case, those properties don't really matter for us. So let's go ahead and run it and look at our variables. You'll see now that we only have one suite, and it's changed the order slightly. This is fine. It's not going to actually change any of the stuff that we have to do right now. And if you don't want to access it as a list, we can very simply make this a list when we come out. And then let's go ahead and run that. And now we have, once again, a proper list in that order. But most of this stuff is already handled for us. This is just kind of an example of what you could do to tokenize to give yourself a proper tokenized list here. But I hope you learned something. And in the next one, we're going to dive into stop words, what they are, and how we can use them. Peace.